There was a farmer who had had enough of some pesky crows that were hanging out at his house, so he grabbed a shotgun and went out and commenced to firing at them. And after he ran out of shells, he walked over there, and what he hadn't noticed was that his pet parrot, who was overly sociable, had gotten mixed in with the crows. And so as he was walking through the crows, he came across his parrot, who had a broken wing and his feathers were kind of ruffled, but he was still alive. And the kids came out and they saw the parrot and they said, "What happened? What happened, Dad?" He said, "Bad company." He said he was keeping bad company. A lot of us in our lives have kept bad company, haven't we? We've made some choices that probably weren't the best. We surrounded ourselves with people who influenced us in, let's say, less than positive ways. I was talking to my daughter last week, and of course, she's a nanny, and that she was telling me a story of one of the boys there, and that how he and a friend had gone out to play, and that the other boy had came up with this great idea to throw a rock at a car. And he said, "I'll do it if you'll do it, but you go first." Well, the other boy, the young boy, picked up the rock and he threw it. Now, there are some parts of a car you can hit that will dent, or the rock will bounce off of, but a window's not one of them. And so sure enough, it went right through the window. Now, you could say, what in the world would possess somebody to do something so stupid? Of course, now he's a young kid, so he's not probably the brightest. But the truth is that a lot of times we do stupid stuff, irresponsible stuff, because we want to belong, don't we? We want to be loved. We want to be accepted by our peers, And so we just go along with it. Have you ever been there? Have you ever done? Am I the only one? Never. Okay, well, some of you being honest today. And but this is church. You can feel free to be honest. I'm not taking names. But a lot of times we let friends influence us, and we just follow blindly. Like whatever they do, we need to do so we can just fit in. So we can be part of the crowd. There's a story that Mickey Mantle used to tell. And I can't say whether it was true or not, but he used to tell that he and a friend had gone out to go hunting. And he had stopped by a good friend of his and asked permission to hunt on his land. And the friend said, "Sure, there's no problem. You go out there and you hunt all you want." He said, "You didn't even have to ask." He said, "But since you asked, let me ask you this. I have an old mule that needs to be put down." He said, "I just can't do it. I've had that mule for years and years, and I don't have the heart to do it." He said, "Could you do that for me? Could you put that mule down?" And Mickey said, "Sure." Now, Mickey was a little bit of a prankster, so when he went back to the car, he acted like he was angry. He said, "He told me no. He told me no, I couldn't hunt on his land. I can't believe it. I'm so exasperated. I'm going to go shoot that mule." And he got out his gun and he went over there and he shot the mule, and he had no more shot the mule, and he heard 3 more gunshots. Bam, bam, bam. And he turned and his friend said, "I'm mad too. I shot 3 cows." So sometimes we follow our friends blindly, and we end up in a little bit of a mess, don't we? Because sometimes that's not the best answer, is it? So we have to be careful how we follow people and the things we do. But friends are important. I think friends are very important to us. We're not meant to travel this journey alone, are we? And some of you have friends that are lifelong friends, right? They're really good friends. And some of you just have acquaintances. People you've met and you hang out with maybe for a season or for a little while. They get you through that. But they're not those deep friends. They're not those people you can call at 3 in the morning and they'll pick up the phone, right? They're there for when there's good times, and maybe not so much the bad times, right? And it's important that we have friends that will walk through life with us, that we have those relationships. But it takes two people to have a relationship, doesn't it? You can't just be in a relationship by yourself, right? It takes two in marriage, right? It takes two in friendships. Friendship. You might have more than one friendship, but it takes two at least. It takes two to have a relationship with God. You and God, right? So there is a need for friendship. There's a need to have people in our lives that are more like family. We love them more like family than we do other people on the street. We would do anything for them. But let's look at today's scripture for just a minute, because I think it gives us some clues about how we're to behave and the things that we should do in a relationship, but also what we should expect from other people. And it also tells us a little bit about love, and it tells us about relationship between us and God, right? Because we're a loving people, right? Christians are supposed to be loving people. We've been commanded to what? Love God and to love one another, right? So love is a very integral part of who we are and how we should act. Would you agree with that? Yeah. Okay, just make sure y'all wait. And I knew you did. But let's look at the scripture. It says, love must be sincere, hate what is evil, cling to what is good, be devoted to one another in love, and honor one another above yourself. And it seems like that's not really a lot of words, but there's a lot packed in there. The first thing it tells you is that our relationships, our love, or our friendships need to be sincere. They need to be authentic. They need to be real. They need to be genuine, right? They need to be sincere. And that's what it tells you. The word sincere comes from a Latin word, and I don't speak Latin, but I can spell it for you. It's S-I-N-E, and I think it's just, I'm not even going to try. But the word comes from when an actor would not wear a mask on stage. Sometimes actors play different roles, but when he didn't wear a mask on stage, it was sincere, I don't know. But it comes from the base word, but basically it means to be revealed, right? Where you can see the real person. And when we're sincere with people, when we're real with people, when we're genuine with people, they get to see us without our mask. They get to see the real us, right? If we're being sincere. Now, the opposite word is when an actor came out and he was masked. And that's where we get the word hypocrite. And some translations of this passage talks about being a hypocrite as opposed to being sincere. Same thing. They read the same basically. But a hypocrite is somebody who what? Who has a mask on, right? Who isn't acting out themselves, but is trying to portray another's character, right? Now, how many of you have ever been a hypocrite? Now we're being honest. And if you didn't raise your hand, there's a pretty good chance that you're not being honest. Because let me point out what I mean. You remember when you go on a first date, right? You go on a first date and you're on your best behavior, right? Right? And you're going to portray all your good qualities, but hopefully none of your bad qualities, right? Because you want to make a good impression, because you want a second date, right? And so you're going to act like you're Prince Charming, or you're the princess, or whoever it is, either one, but you're going to put your best foot forward and not truly be yourself, but you're portraying the person that you think they would be attracted to. Is that fair to say? I mean, I can say it. And if they fall for you, if they really like you and they really fall in love with you, at some point, those other characteristics are going to be revealed, right? And they're gonna reveal that maybe you weren't this character that you portrayed yourself to be. When the mask comes off, they're going to find out that you really don't like cats. Even though you've been saying, oh, I love cats. Cats are my favorite. I love your cat. Your cat's the best. When the truth is you don't really love cats, but to be accepted by them, you put on this mask, oh, I love some cats. I wish we had a dozen, you know. And the truth is, some of y'all looking at each other like, but the truth is, it always comes out. And the thing about not being truthful, not being sincere in that relationship is it becomes like a treadmill. There's no end. You've got to keep lying and lying and lying to keep it going, right? Until sooner or later, it's revealed. The mask comes off. And the other person goes, really? I thought you loved cats. But that's what it means to be hypocritical, right? You're representing yourself to be something that you're not. So if you've ever done that, whether in a relationship with your spouse or on a first date or at work or at church or wherever you're at, then you're probably a little bit of a hypocrite. And I think most of us have done that at some point in time. You know, presented ourselves to be something that we weren't. To feel important or to get accepted or whatever that may be. I remember I've heard a friend of mine back in North Carolina, a friend came up to her and said, I don't go to church. It's just filled with hypocrites. And she said, but aren't you glad that they're there so God can work on them? Because we're all works in progress, right? It doesn't mean you're necessarily a bad person, but it just means that sometimes we adjust who we are to be who people want us to be. So we put that mask on. But the scripture here is saying, love must be sincere, right? It must be genuine. And that's not just our love for each other as friends or as family, but that's our love for God as well. Our love for God must be sincere. It's not just a mask we put on Sunday. It's something that we carry with us all week long, right? That every day we recognize that we're in a relationship with God. And He loves us, and we love Him. Is that fair? You think that's fair? The second thing he says is, and that goes back to, when you're talking about being genuine, it goes into what? Our integrity, right? Or our character. I mean, what really are we? And what do we really believe? And who we really are? You know, when you look in the mirror, who do you see? When no one else is around, what do? You know, that's our integrity. That's our character. And we want to talk about that for a minute, but just because, you need to understand, just because you are a character doesn't mean you have character. You'll understand that, right? Now, Martin Luther King Jr. said what? That one day he hoped that as Americans we'd be judged by the content of our character. In other words, who we were, regardless of race, any of that we'd all just be judged by who we are, right? And that's a nice dream. Unfortunately, I'm not sure we've gotten there yet. But hopefully one day we will get there. Where we judge people for who they really are. Well, actually, we should be judging them and all. But if we have to form an opinion about them, maybe it'll be about not the clothes they wear or the color of their skin or where they are on the social, economic ladder of life, but more about who they actually are. Because that will be dealing with their character. And you have to sometimes look at the character of your friends. Because sometimes the friends you have aren't the friends you need. And the friends you're hanging out with aren't truly friends that have your best interest at heart. Right? And what does it say in here? The next line says, hate what is evil. Hate what is evil. Cling to what is good. In other words, sometimes we got to let the negativity and those people who are bringing us down or drawing us away from God, we need to cut them out of our lives. Because they're not doing anything but harming us. There's a story of a man who dialed the wrong number and And the answer machine said, thank you for caring enough to call. So I'm making some changes in my life, and I ask that you just leave a message at the beep. If I don't call you back, you're one of those changes. Now, it's funny, but sometimes it comes to a point where people are truly just dragging you into the mud. And you got to make sure you're not dragged into the mud. So I've had a relationship with them all my life, but they always have something negative to say. They're never building me up. When I'm down, they just join everybody else and kick. You don't need that person in your life. You need people who are going to be there to support you. They're going to lift you up when you fall, because we all fall and we all stumble. But you need somebody there who's going to lift you up. Somebody there who's got your back, right? I remember when my daughters were small, they used to climb on those steel monkey bars. You know what I'm talking about? I call them death traps. But they used to climb on those things when they were real small. And as they were climbing, I would stand behind them, about an inch or so behind them, with my hands right here. So if they fell, I would what? I'd be there to catch it, right? And I think that's the kind of friends you need. That's the kind of people we need in our relationship, that are close enough to us that if we fall, they're going to be there to catch us. That's the kind of relationship you need to understand that you have with God. That when you fall, when you stumble, and we all stumble, He's there to say, I got this, it's going to be okay. I got your back. You're going to be all right. This is not the end, but a new beginning. My daughter moved to Nashville just recently, and I think the thing that she missed the most and was hardest for her about moving was that she was going to be leaving behind a good group of friends. Friends that had lifted her up in hard times. Friends that had been there for her when she needed a shoulder to cry on. People who were there just to listen. People who were there to just say, it's going to be all right. You're going to survive this. We all need those types of friends. I've lost several friends in the last few years, and I can tell you, I miss those conversations. I miss those conversations. I miss knowing that if I had to call somebody at 3 in the morning, they'd pick up the phone, no ifs, ands, and buts about it. That they had always been there for me. That we had a relationship that went back 30, 40 years, and I knew they would be there for me. And why did I know that? Because we've already been through some stuff together. We've been through some hard times together. We've been supportive of each other throughout our history. You see, it doesn't build overnight, does it? True friendships take time. You got to go through some stuff together. Marriages, you don't know how strong they are until they go through some stuff together, right? You're gonna have some things that are going to really try those relationships, that are going to really make you think about who you're hanging out with. But if they're not there to support you, if they don't have their hands at your back saying, hey, I got you. If you fall, we're together. Not somebody who's going to say, oh, I'm sorry, that was a bad fall. You don't need those people in your life. You need people who truly love you, who are genuine, who are sincere about your relationship, and recognize that it takes two people to be in a relationship, not just one. If you're unevenly yoked, it will not work. With that being said, we need to recognize that God has already given His love to us sincerely and openly, and He wants us to love Him back. He wants us to recognize that when He says, I love you, it's sincere. When He says, I'll be there for you, it's sincere. He will, without a doubt. His loyalty cannot be challenged. He has already sent His Son to die for you on a cross. What more can you ask of Him to show His commitment to you? But are we equally as in love with Him, or do we just say that? Is it something that we just mouth, or is it something that we live out in our actions? I can say I'm your friend, but until I prove that I'm your friend, I'm not sure we really are friends, are we? it's real, people are real quick to say that they're your friends when in reality, they're just acquaintances. They're just people that are passing through your life for a season. And that's something you need to be able to recognize. You need to know that without a doubt, the people that you've surrounded yourself with have good intentions. The people that you've surrounded yourself with truly love you and want to be there for you. I think we can do that with God. No, I misspoke. I'm sorry. I know we can do that with God. I know He's always been there for me. And I know He'll always be there for you. Does that mean that life is going to be good all the time? No. Does that mean there's no more illnesses in the world? No. Does that mean we have all the money we need to spend all the time? Heavens no. Exactly. It doesn't say life's going to be perfect, but what it says is I'm going to be there for you. You're going to go through some trials, but don't worry because my hands are right here on your back, and if you fall, I got you. Everybody say, I got you. I got you. And that's what He's letting us know. He's got us. And if we develop that relationship with Him, if we're devoted, because that's what it says, right? It says, be devoted to one another. That's the next verse, be devoted to one another in love. And if we're devoted to God in that loving fashion, and we already know He's devoted to us, and if we're devoted to one another, if we look around this church and say, I'm devoted to you, I always will have your back. I will always support you. I will always encourage you and never, ever, ever try to tear you down. And we can say we have a good relationship. We can say we have a loving relationship. That I accept you for all your weaknesses. That I accept you with all your faults. And we don't always agree, and that's okay. Because I guarantee you everybody in this room is not going to agree with everybody in this room on all things. We have our own opinions. That's what makes you an individual. And that's okay. I don't have to love your opinion to love you. Right? When you meet someone on the street and they don't have the same opinion of you, you don't have to love that opinion. You don't even have to agree with it. But you can still love that person, right? God loved all the world. He sent His Son. That means Democrats and Republicans, tall, short, people with hair, perfect people without. All that. He loved everybody, right? But if we're devoted to God in that manner, just like if we're devoted to friends in that manner, you say, my friend can call me at 3, I'll answer the phone. If God calls you, will you answer the phone? Think about that for a minute. Think about that for a minute. If God's calling you to be in the choir, are you picking up the phone? If God's calling you to go out and minister to the poor, are you picking up that phone? Let the machine get it. Let the machine get it. I'll get the message later. Are we listening for God's voice in our lives? Are we listening for that 3 a.m. call, or did we put our phone on silence for the night? Because we don't want to be bothered. It's too much. Being a Christian is demanding. It calls for us to be transformed into Christ. To try, we'll never get there, but to try to be as Christ-like as we can. And if we're doing those things, then we're going to do exactly what it says here at the bottom. It says, honor one another above yourself. What? Honor one another above yourself. That means to serve humbly, right? When you put somebody else before yourself, that's a servant's heart. That's being a servant. That's being humble, not prideful. Fights start all the time. We have disagreements. But a lot of times, the thing that stokes that fire that's burning is pride. Because I can't be wrong. I just can't. I got to win this fight. It don't matter if I lose the war. It don't matter if I sleep on the couch, but I got to win this fight. It's important that I be first. It's important that I be right. It's more important that I be right than it is the relationship I'm in with this other person. We talked about that a little last week, about going to bed angry, right? About how pride keeps us from making a discussion out of it instead of an argument about it, right? You see, that's how Christ served us. He didn't come here to be served. He came to serve us. He came to die on the cross for us. I don't know how much more humble you can get. He didn't pay for his sins. He paid for yours. He gave his life for yours. We're heading towards the cross in a few weeks, aren't we? Are our lives right? Are we loving one another? Are we doing the things we're called to do? To love our neighbor? Are we being humble servants, or are we being prideful masters? Masters of our money, masters of our things. I hope we're being humble servants. You know, it's so easy to fall into the influences of this world. They say, put yourself first above anybody else. If it feels good to you, then it's the right thing to do. And nothing could be farther from the truth. Instead of looking as what's in it for me, we should look at it, what's in it for us. What's in it for us? How can we make this work? How can we come together? How can we have a relationship? Because a relationship requires two people. And if you're only in it for you, that's not a relationship. That's not a relationship at all. Sometimes we need to question our motives. We need to question, have we made enough progress in the area of our lives that Christ has called us to, which is to love one another? It wasn't something he just said, well, let me see, I don't know, why don't y'all love each other? You know? No. He told us that's what we should do. Love God with all your heart, all your soul. Everything you got, be all in, love God. And love your neighbor. Two things. He didn't go into a long speech. He said what had to be said. He said what he thought was important to you. And you know, if we accept those things, then we're moving to be more Christ-like. We're doing what's pleasing to God. We're all works in progress. We're probably not where we need to be today. But we're taking a journey to the cross. We're taking a journey to the empty tomb. And you got to realize something. There's more grace in God than there is sin in you. And if we're willing to let go of the evil and cling to what is good, we'll get to where we need to be. If we recognize there's some things in our lives that maybe we need to cut loose, that maybe we don't need to hang out with those particular people, maybe we don't need to have the negatives that those people are putting into our lives there anymore. Maybe we don't need that weight that pulls us down, that guilt, those things that are what? They're evil, but what we need to do is find something that is good. God is good. Actually, God is great. He doesn't try to deceive you with a mask that says, I'm this or I'm that. He says, I am who I am. I am the great I am. Right? He is who he says he is. His word can be trusted. When he says, I love you and I want you to trust in me and I'm loyal to you, you can trust that. You can believe in that. His integrity is impeccable. He is who he says he is. Are you who you say you are? I hope so. Be someone who's sincere. Be someone who's real. Be a genuine friend, a real friend. Love your neighbor. Love your neighbor as yourself. Don't listen to the influences of the wrong influences in your life that will end up in a mess for you. Listen to the Word of God, because I can promise you this, is that the results will be heavenly. And all God's people said, Amen.